I welcome you all. Today I'll continue with my discussion about the uh, fiscal policy. You may recall that in the last lecture I had provided an introduction of fiscal policy, and I have also discussed the historical background of fiscal policy. And you may recall that fiscal policy is the definition here is stated, point out that is action of government to influence economic activities through manipulation, means not in the negative sense, change in taxation and public expenditure. Depending upon economic condition, the government can increase taxes or decrease taxes, and can increase government expenditure or public expenditure, in other words. And the objective for these changes, as it is shown here, is to cause an effect on economic growth, so that the GDP of the country is, is sustained and increases at a faster rate, and it brings price stability, generates employment, and also reduces the gap between uh, rich and poor, which is reflected in inequalities in income and wealth, and also bring about economic stability, like the fluctuation in economic activities, like gyrations. I'm told by Dr. Tariq Aziz that he's already taken business cycles and exchange rates. So contain the extreme effect of business cycle, that is the period of recession and the period of an expansion, then finally a trough and then a turning point. So fluctuation in economic activities can be mitigated by use of fiscal policy. Now, as I told you in my last lecture, that the development of fiscal policy, its genesis to let me modify my statement. Its use in affecting the economic variables to John Maynard Keynes. People knew it, that taxation and expenditure has got an influence, but that for providing a persuasive thesis or an argument for use of that was provided by John Maynard Keynes, J.M. Keynes, who propounded this idea in his book, A General Theory of Employment, Interest and Money. So that book is a landmark book, and it is one of the most influential books in the annals of economic thought. And Keynes was a very multifaceted person. He was an economist, he was an investor, he was a playwright, and he was a multifaceted person. And even George Bernard Shaw had written somewhere that any person who could match his argument was John R. Keynes. I mean, as far as the intellectual capability of J.M. Keynes. So the idea which was provided by John Maynard Keynes was very new. And as I said, that any policy, use of any policy has a background, that its genesis. This idea was suggested in the backdrop of Great Depression of 1930s, when the prolonged period of recession gripped the entire world, lasting for over 3 decades. So Keynes provided the idea that government should intervene in the economy. That was counter to the view held by the economists at that time. That is, prevailing idea that government should not interfere, let the market forces to work it out, and the prevailing the notion of economic thought was captured in a famous saying of that supply creates the demand. Keynes said that So the problem of the problem at hand is of lack of demand, not of supply. So we should take care of demand, it will take care of supply. So he propounded this idea, and in order to influence total demand in the economy, uh, the this equation you should keep in view that the total demand in the economy is made of the total demand, as I discussed in my lecture about national income. There are three ways to measure national income. One way is through income, output, and expenditure method. So this is from the viewpoint from the angle of expenditure side. So this is a very famous equation that if you want to understand about total demand, I am talking about the macroeconomic aggregate demand in contrast to micro level demand, which may be demand for a car, for MBA, for jet, and so on and so forth. So this is consumer spending, that is the consumption demand. Investment is spending that by businesses, and government purchases are expenditure, and export and import. Export is the demand by foreigners for our goods. Import is demand for foreigners goods by our the citizens. So the difference is called net export. This is the government expenditure purchases. This is the spending by the businesses in the how in the construction of the factories, like buying of equipment, and other machineries, and so on and so forth. And this is the demand by consumers on durable and non-durable goods. So we do not make a distinction between in durable, how much is TV and refrigerator. It is the summation of total demand. So if you want to stimulate demand in the economy, one should either the consumption demand should increase, or investment, or export demand should increase. So when others are not spending, consumers are not spending, businesses are not spending, and exports are not picking up, then the only option is that government should spend. That is why government expenditure plays a very important role in the management of the economy. In the event of certain situation which demand actions, like a period of low demand, high employment, unemployment, rising prices, like that, where government action is needed to mitigate and to alleviate the economic condition and bring back economy to the rails. That is the so that is why even in COVID situation and other, it was suggested that when consumers the jobs are not there, the production and activities have taken a hit, then government expenditure should be the only option that can provide a stimulus, and that can bring other chain effect in the economy. So today I will briefly discuss all the other aspects related to. Namely, I will talk about the role of the multiplier in managing the total demand in the economy. That is, let me put it very simply here, that if government spend money or investment spending is done by businesses, let us say 10 million, so the final increase in total demand in the economy will be a multiple of that. A chain effect is created because of that. So, and then in the last part of my lecture, I will also discuss about one important aspect of fiscal policy, that is, what are the principles that govern the taxation. And then I will go on to discuss about types of taxes and and some discussion later on about the budget deficit and surplus and the consequences and economic policy making, that I will discuss in my last part. Now let us go further and discuss. So this was the John Say and classical economists. So I have already discussed this thing. So just have a can have a, that the counter cycle. You mean that Vivek Chauhan is also using his counter cyclical measure using a pen. Okay. So counter cyclical means that the fluctuation economic activity, for example, a period of expansion in the economy, when economic activities, the over a period of time, we find it that there fluctuation, a period of then downturn, then again a recovery, then again, so goes on the. So a period of recession when low demand and other things are there. So what the government can do? Government can increase expenditure and cut down taxes. So this will increase. Similarly, if position is, so this is called expansionary fiscal policy. And if prices are rising, then government should contract, by increasing taxes and reducing expenditure. A combination of this thing, it will bring down, contain the prices. So whether a government takes expansionary fiscal policy or, for that matter, contraction, it will depend upon, is contingent upon the economic condition, which we call cyclical, counter-cyclical. Government want to reduce the severity of the occurrences of these cyclical situations. And it happens sometimes that despite government's best effort, situation does not turn to a good situation. That is, does not become rosy. It continues to last long. Otherwise, why the economic, the financial crisis in US would have lasted, would have impacted the US economy very severely, because the best policy, best brains are there, economists are there, and so I'll discuss these issues in later part together, why the policy making may not be effective. So this is, now when I said that total demand in the economy, now you can remember this equation: C plus I plus G plus X minus M. And the joke goes that if you tell parrot and this equation, it will also become economist. So this is the consumption demand by the consumer, investment by businesses, and this is government expenditure. This is export, this is import. The difference is called net export. So why government expenditure are any of these components like export, investment, government consumption, investment, government or export has got a multiplier effect. If any of these increase, then the final increase in total demand, I'm talking about this, will be more than that. To put it in a simple way, once again, that for example, 1 million is spent, investment is done, or government expenditure is done, then final increase will be a multiple of this thing. It may be 4 million, it may be, will depend upon. So why this happens, I will elaborate on. That is why the expenditure, and same way it will also operate. For example, if government bring down the taxes, but once you understand, you are able to understand the multiplier effect, then other will become clear. So let us say that an increase in initial autonomous spending that government decides that it will spend on railways, or let us say on road construction. Now, what will happen that for road construction, all these, the steel, all these, and then the other equipment which are required for laying the railway line, and it will boost the demand for these the parts, equipments, and other thing. So those companies which are producing it, they will increase production. When they will increase production, so those who are employed there, they will get income. When they get income, they will spend on goods and services. Not necessarily the goods produced by these, the steel manufacturing and other companies like that. But they may spend on other goods. When they spend on other goods, then those selling the goods and services, they will further produce. And when they further produce, those who are employed, they will again get income. They will again spend. And what happened that because the increase, for example, for building a railway line or for other activities, what has happened that not only that the firms, the companies which are producing this will benefit, but the workers and others who are there, they will get income, and they will spend in turn on the goods and services. Not only they will buy the same equipment produced by but on their goods and services, like the consumption spending may be durable, may be non-durable. Okay. So, and then if further demand is there, their businesses what may that further expand the capacity, and they will further employ. So what is happening here is that initial increase has now set in motion a chain effect. And the chain effect is that the final increase in total spending will be more than 1 million. And in order to find out how much will be the total increase in, one can get an idea about that by looking at how much people are spending. The more they spend, greater will be the increase. Uh, Lower they spend, lower will be the increase. So let us work it out and try to understand. For instance, as I said that railway or let us say a defense, let us say, or anything government may spend, or railway, road, in road building, there are various type of the equipment, material, and other which are required. So all those, so there is a link, that it creates a demand for those products, and those workers which are employed, they get income. They get income, they spend on goods and services, their spending increases. And then in turn, it further, encourages businesses to produce more. When they produce more, those who are employed, they will, the profitability of the companies increases, and they may be encouraged to invest further, for enhancing their production capacity. So what is happening here is that the government expenditure or other components will bring into motion a situation where the initial increase will cause a multiple increase in or higher than the initial increase in the investment or spending. And as I said that the more they spend, the greater the increase. So this can be worked out by a formula. That is the 1 upon MPC, that is marginal profitability, that is the amount of money. For example, if people are spending 70%, so it will be 1 minus 0.7, that is, now we divide by 1, and now if it comes out to be lower, 50% they spend it 0.5. So this this value will become, because naturally the value here is higher than the if you divide by this, then it will be lower. So that is why the greater the spending, the more will be the increase. Lower the spending. That is why I also told you that one of the famous economists at Harvard, William Taussig, in the Great Depression of 1930s, will urge people to spend, not to save. Because the more you spend, the greater will be the increase in the. Now, this is an example which has been worked out. Let us say a 50 billion increase. I'm not written rupees or something like that, dollar. Now 50 billion, let us say that the marginal propensity to consume is that 60%, 0.6, those who receive income spend. Because please keep in mind that 50 billion worth of investment will also generate 50 billion worth of income. So those who receive income, 0.6 multiplied by this is the first round. Then second round, it will be that those who receive this 30 billion, they will spend point multiplied by 30. Then the third round, 18 into 0.6 multiplied by this. So what is happening is that a part is say in each round, that is the saved, and the rest is consumed. So a chain effect, and this will go on, and finally it will peter out. So this way we can work out. Otherwise, the formula is very simple, that the 1 upon 1 minus MPC, or that is marginal, that is the amount of money which is, or the please remember that income is either can be consumed or saved. Consumption or, so when 60% is consumed, 0.6, 40% is saved. If you increase this more, it will become 0.3, that is 30%. The more you spend, the more. So what has happened that if you put this here, 1 minus 0.6, so the multiplier value will be 1.2, and the initial increase is 50. So it means that the final increase will be, I'm sorry, it will be 2.5. It will be 0.4, so it will be 2.5. So 2.5 will be the multiplier value, and you multiply by 50,000, then final increase will be $1.25 trillion. So what has happened that a chain effect, a multiplier effect, reaction to spending again one round, in round, and then further. So that is why these aspect has got a I will Mahek Haidar, just I will address your question. Okay, just note down. Let me complete it, then I'll come back. So this just wait for a minute. Wait for a minute. So this way it can work out, and because of this, it has. Yes. What is your question?
Sir, my question was, you've written 1 upon 1 minus MPS, if I'm right?
One upon, I'm sorry.
It should be 1 upon MPS, right?
Yes, it's mistake. Okay.
Yes.
That is, but here I have done minus. Okay, that is mistake. My mistake.
Yes, yes. Sir, or we can write it as 1 upon MPS also, right?
Yeah, exactly. Same thing. Either you use this equation, same way. So what will be that? The amount of money which is saved, this is subtraction from this thing, but if you write it 0.5, 0.4, same thing. You are also getting the same thing, 0.4 here. Okay.
Yes.
Either you write 1 upon MPS or 1 minus MPS, both are the same thing.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
And but you see that this is an yeah. And the question is also very important, that what is the size of multiplier, this is also, for example, US economy, there for a long time, there was a debate. What is the size of multiplier? For example, government does 50 billion spend on the final what will be. So there was a lot of disagreement that what is the size. But without going to that debate about the size, one thing there is a unanimity that the either government expenditure or investment or other creates a chain effect. And because of that, what happened that the final increase in total demand in the economy, increase in GDP or for that matter, will be higher than that. There is no disagreement to that effect. Only thing is that the magnitude of the multiplier, because all are estimates, and moreover, it is, we are assuming it here that 0.6 will continue. Maybe other period it may go up 0.7 or it may come down to 0.5. We are assuming that this will continue over a period, this throughout this chain. Okay, so there are also leakages, so there are naturally anything which we work out based on assumption. I repeat what I said till now. What I am pointing out that in order to manage the economy, in other words, a situation which we call counter-cyclical situation, where recession is there and government want to cure the economy or bring the economy to increase the GDP of the economy. What government can do? Government can, if can increase expenditure. So when government increases expenditure, what happens that it creates a chain reaction, a chain effect. And that boost stimulates the total demand in the economy. And the formula for working out this effect, I've already told you that, but the its simple explanation is that why it works. Because those, when government spends in any activity, like maybe road building or railway or any other, so what happens that those who are employed, they will get income, and the material, equipment, other supplier companies, they will, because of that, they will further, increase production, further income, and those who are working, they will receive income, they will spend on goods and services, other companies producing those goods and services, and then it sets into motion the effect, which is larger in magnitude than the initial increase in investment. And that is why the same effect will be there if government decreases tax. For example, if tax are decreased, then people will have more money to, their disposable income will go. Because disposable income is the income is, income is equal to consumption. So either you consume it, but the disposable income is that whatever income you receive it, a part of the income is taken by taxes. For example, income is 100 rupees, 30% is tax, only 70 rupees will remain. If you reduce taxes 20%, it will be 80 rupees disposable income. Now, this disposable income either can be, let us say, 70% is consumed and the rest is saved. So that is why tax has also got that, because those, if government reduces taxes, then it gives more money to people. They will spend more, and they will spend more. Then because of that, what may happen? That again a chain effect may be created. That is why it may. So this is for expansionary. It may be contractionary also. Whenever government cuts down, then it will have opposite effect of that. Yes, God. Yes.
Sir, I have a question. Sir, if people start saving this money and the tax that has been reduced, it will not be a multiplier effect.
It will not have the same effect, but it will not with all the people, that in economy, if the income is, they have got higher disposable income, all of them will increase it, isn't it? Some may not, isn't it? So, but we are not saying that all of them will go. For example, normally what happens that disposable income is increased, then people have more money, isn't it? Now, for example, there is also one explanation apart from this. Explanation is that if this cut is permanent, then people may adjust their spending. If this cut is not permanent, then people may not. That is why there is a concept of permanent increase in income and transitionary, temporary increase. So, but it will never be the. Do you think that the economy, when the disposable income is increased, which income tax bracket one is there, the all of them will start saving more? In saving also, there are so many factors involved. It may be that some may increase saving, they may have more income, but others may also consume. So on an average, it is the tendency that the people will spend more money on an average. This is one of the assumptions behind that. But if people start spending more, saving more, then it will. For example, it has been in Japanese economy, despite government expenditure, people were not spending money because they thought that the economy is already in a very prolonged recession and there is no recovery in sight. So whatever money they were having, they were saving it more for contingencies. So, and moreover, saving people, why will people will save more? Because if they can offer more return, for example, so there are various factors which may affect it. But by and large, the empirical studies have pointed out that higher cut in taxation, especially personal taxation, increases demand in the economy. But the question about cut in corporate taxation is a debatable issue.
Sir, but in India, the people who pay taxes are not much affected by the amount of the percentage of tax being increased or decreased, because the lower section of the society, they don't pay taxes on their incomes. So the thing you said about government expenditure, that if we are building some roads, government is spending on building roads, then the section of the society which is actually in need of the resources, they'll get the money and the money would be multiplied then. But sir, if the higher section of the society, they will get the reduction in the taxes, they'll not be able to actually think the things like this, because in India, the taxpayers are actually in the above slab.
And above slab, what do you mean by above slab? There are taxes are 30%, 20%, and 10% tax bracket is there, income tax, isn't it? So you are using a broad brush approach to paint all these people, using the same argument. Okay. For example, as a taxpayer, which is I'm the highest income tax bracket, if I get more income, if he cut down the cut down of 2%, even 3%, so that comes out of huge. You save lakhs of rupees. Even 5% tax cut, will result in huge. You are paying more than 10 lakh rupees for tax, almost, isn't it? So will not have, for example, if somebody is getting almost, we are paying it to the extent. Don't think that tax relief will give us more money. And what about this? Even all the other tax brackets. So do not, that is, do not make a broad brush and sweeping, argument about that it will not happen. You are right to that extent, but the lower strata people who do not under this. That is why a cash transfer scheme, like the employment guarantee scheme, will also boost demand in the economy. That is why it has been pointed out the universal income, an idea that those who are poor people, because they require so many things, so that will boost the demand. So that you are correct to that extent. But to say that all these 30, 20, and 10% tax bracket will not, it will have no effect, I think that it is misleading. It will not affect.
I'm not saying no effect. It will have a minimal effect because these people are not affected by the change in, like you said, 10. If a person is given.
Are you a taxpayer?
Yeah, sir, I'm not a taxpayer. My father is.
Then how can you understand it? Can you quote any empirical study on that? I am telling you now. As a taxpayer, we feel the taxation. We are hoping that some tax relief will be there. For the last so many years, for 7 years, almost no tax, 7, 8 years, no tax relief. And that a chunk of, for example, if you get a relief of 1 lakh or on account of change, just an example. Not necessarily that one will spend entire amount, but maybe 50% of this is spent are for other item and the rest is saved. So at least some part of will go to spending. But if those who are having, so to say that, what about this 10%? Those who are paying 10%. What about this 20%? You are dealing with the highest income tax. Probably it may not have much effect on spending. But for certain items they may have. For example, they may spend more on this, isn't it? So type of goods and services, to say that it will have minimal effect, I think that is ill-founded. Have you got any empirical study to draw this conclusion? To support this? What is the basis of this argument?
Sir, I thought that
this is not an armchair theorizing. Unless you yourself is a taxpayer, I am telling you that we are paying it. I have lived in a country where I hardly paid any tax for 5 years. I was in Oman for 5 years. I didn't pay any tax there, income tax there. Now my salary is much higher than that, so because I stayed much earlier there. But that almost 10 lakh rupees we are paying as a tax. So and even if half, even 1%, 2%, 3% will put us a lot of money in a 2 lakh. Maybe we are not going to spend the entire amount, but it will be saved, isn't it? And moreover, saving has got another effect. Let me also tell you why saving, because there are some concepts which are involved. If you spend in stock market, our real wealth will increase. Let us say equity investment. So it means that we have more money. So in future also it may have an effect, isn't it? So there are so many factors. That is why you cannot say this thing based on some armchair theorizing or conjectures. Economics is not like that in concept of management course and other. What do you think leaders should do? There are so much variation, so much point to argue there. But in economics, there are points to argue. But to say that it will have no effect, I think that I think should rethink or should study further. Then you will understand.
Okay, sir.
अभी किसी बच्चे से बताया जाए कि अगर ये शादी बहुत अच्छी चीज है, ठीक है, तो क्या वो बच्चा वो समझ पाएगा उसके? मैं आपको लेक्चर देता रहा हूँ कि आपको अभी आप लोग तो मैरिजेबल एज के पहुंच चुके हैं, लेकिन मैं हाई स्कूल के बच्चे को बार बार ये बताता रहा हूँ, ये 6ठी जमात के बच्चे को कि शादी कर लीजिए, बहुत अच्छी चीज है, तो समझ ही पाएगा उस चीज को। अभी आप टैक्स नहीं पे कर रहे हैं, या तो फिर आपने इस पे एम्पिरिकली या तो इकोनॉमी पढ़ी हो उस लेवल की, या एम्पिरिकल स्टडीज पढ़ी हो। इससे कारपोरेशन टैक्स के बारे में मैंने बताया कि डिबेट है, बहुत बड़ा डिबेट है कि कारपोरेट टैक्सेशन अक्सर ये होता है, ये कहा जाता है कि इनका कंपनी से कंपनी को इंसेंटिवाइज होंगी और ये स्पेंड करेंगी, इन्वेस्टमेंट करेंगी, लेकिन ये चीज बहुत डिबेटेबल है। दुनिया में पाया गया, अब तो यहाँ तक कहा जा रहा है कि इसका कोई खास असर नहीं पड़ा। तो ये पॉइंट ऑफ डिबेट है, नॉट दिस पॉइंट ऑफ डिबेट कि ये टैक्सेशन अगर आप वो कम करेंगे तो इनकम, खासतौर से पर्सनल इनकम टैक्स को कम करेंगे तो उसका कोई असर नहीं है। ये चीज ऐसे नहीं है। हाँ, हायर यू आर पॉइंट टू करेक्ट टू दैट एक्सटेंट कि स्लैब में, हायर स्लैब में इतने, लेकिन लोअर स्लैब में तो है ना 10-20%। और एक पुअर उसको कैश या एम्प्लॉयमेंट गारंटी या कैश ट्रांसफर, that will boost the demand. You are correct to that level. But to say that the tax will have no effect on these people, only thing is that we should. So then I think that depends upon the size of the taxpayers in India, although they are very low. But even that size, the is given the the complexion of our economy will have an impact on it.
Okay, sir.
So we'll continue with this, and I will discuss today a further thing like taxation. Sir, that the point which I was trying to explain is that fiscal policy has got an effect on the total demand in the economy, or can cause an effect on total demand in the economy, aggregate demand in the economy. And again, why I'm writing these things, because that in order to reinforce these things, that the either consumption should increase or investment in government expense, and it will bring about a multiple increase in the total demand in the economy, are also known as GDP or income in the economy. Now the taxation principle, as I said that the recent budget, the budget which stands any philosophy, and it means as a student of economics, we would always look forward to budget speeches, budget. But for the last few years, we have this has become disenchanted with the figures, with the philosophy and other things, because we do not find anything worthwhile to sometime to study. So there is always a philosophy behind budget. What should be and philosophy, the canons or principles of budget taxation. Taxation is a very, very ticklish issue, very, very controversial issue, and like that. But that economists and philosophers and others, they have always looked at what principles should govern the taxation. Behind any policy making, there is a thinking, an argument about that. So, because that the fiscal policy and other things are decided by government, by elected representatives. That is the MPs in the parliament, and they decide about that. So, and like that government of the day, which were parties at the helm of it, the idea is that justice and other fairness and the principle which should govern the running of the country. That also permeates, that also part of the policy making. Some of these are also have been incorporated in the design of taxation system. So some of the principles of a taxation system are that the taxation should be equitable and fair. Taxation should be efficient. It should be easy to administer, simple to administer. It should be transparent, and it should be flexible. Flexible means that it should not be the case that because of the economic condition, it does not undergo change. I will explain these principles one by one, and to start with equitable and fair. That, as I said, that justice and fairness are the principles which form the policy making, or at least on paper, that a society should be just. And history has witnessed to the fact that unjust societies have not survived. No matter what religion you follow, but if you are unjust, societies have not survived. So that is why these principles also should govern the following. So fairness does not mean that black and white, that fair and lovely and cream and other thing, that fair means that if you and I are similar in every respect, you and I should be taxed equally. If you and I are different, we should be taxed differently. The first principle is called horizontal equity. That similar people should be, whatever the basis, maybe based on income, maybe based on wealth, maybe based on other criteria, maybe expenditure. If we are similar, we should be taxed equally. If your income and my income are different, we should be taxed differently. So this is the first principle which govern I will tell you later part that how far these underlying principles are put into practice. Because please keep in mind that these taxation are decided by politicians. There is economics also, but there is always a politician, the political policy making, those who are there who take the decisions. So this is first principle that the justice, this taxation system is just and fair. If any system, for example, if you are charging, if you are saying a flat 10% across the level income, whether you are income having 1 crore, 50 crore, 5 lakh, all of you pay 10%. This is not fair, because those who have got 1 crore, they have their ability to pay is much higher. Willingness, forget about willingness. They can pay more. But if you are taxing the same rate, at the same rate, it is not fair. It is unjust. Because the people who are in this bracket and this year, they are different in terms of their ability, in terms of you measure it in terms of income or other criteria. So any taxation principle, let me also give you an example. For example, justice or fairness, I'm talking about the direct taxes, income taxes. There are some goods. For example, if you are trying to impose tax on the goods which are consumed by poor, mostly by poor, then this system is not fair. If you are leaving that the car and the luxury car lower than the car which is used by the middle class people or the people, if this is lower than this, then it means that it's not fair. So that is why this principle of fairness should govern. I'm using the word should govern. And by and large, some of the income tax brackets which are there, like 10%, 20% in this, they follow. Now, other aspect, I think that I will not be able to complete it. I will take up the rest of this thing in my next class. And so do attend, because these discussions are interesting. And in your life, you will come across, every year you will come across budget. When budget is presented and other thing, at least if you are attentive in my lectures, you will be able to get a fair idea about. You will get at least you will be making to make out what are the salient features and what the budget and fiscal policy convey to you, and how does it matter in your life. So I'll continue with this in my next class.
Sir, can I ask you one more thing?
Puchiye.
Sir, aren't the taxes and government expenditure related to each other? because the taxes we pay are the part of government expenditure.
Naturally, they are related. They are related because the government, if he is able to raise more revenue, but you know that it is not that government expenditure is always dependent on government. Because the economies which have got higher tax revenue, they have more elbow room for expenditure, isn't it? Those otherwise the government, if you have expenditure, then government, but also even if government is not able to raise revenues to that level, government can resort to some other deficit financing, for making expenditure. To some extent, of course, it is dependent. And but you know that in some certain situation, instead if government revenues are not, for example, during COVID, when government revenues were not picking up, GST collection was very low. Even it was suggested that government should resort to deficit financing. Okay, that is borrowing from the market, the RBI, or you like that. Raising fund through the selling government bonds and then using that money.
Government securities.
Yes. Naturally, if you collect more revenue, your income government, so they will have more, ability to spend.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Sir,
Boli.
sir, about the discussion you were saying about corporate tax, is it a correct observation that a few years ago when the government of India reduced corporate tax because they wanted that savings the business corporates would invest, but that did not actually translate into real investment? So would it be a correct observation to say that corporate tax cut was not very successful?
You know that just remind me in my last part of lecture, there is whole school of the entire school of thought has come up in US, supply side economists. The supply side economists, they point out that we should reduce taxes, especially corporate tax, not only personal taxes, but that will boost investment, that will provide incentives. But very recently, a study, cross-country study. Cross-country means not only India, but across the world. It has come to a conclusion. In some cases, it has resulted in. But by and large, we find that the cut in corporate taxes has not resulted, much increase in investment, like that. So in India also what happened that they were very, they are sitting on cash, they are not spending and like that. And there are various loopholes available. Some companies even do not go. There is a tax, if you make investment in this you will get tax break. Then minimum alternative taxes are there. So like, there are so many loopholes available. So that is why it did not prove to help. And please remember, only the tax reduction is not the only thing. Businesses also have to take into account the increase in demand, that the expectations about that. Okay, so they will make investment. It's not the only thing that if you reduce taxes, that will. But by and large, the recently a cross-country study has come to new study may refute it that in future, but by and large, it has not resulted much fresh investment in the economy.
Okay, sir.
Note down your question if you